Alrighty, y'all. So, today is Labor Day. Had a pretty good weekend for the most part. Nothing too crazy or anything. Did have a little going away barbecue slash Labor Day thing on Saturday. Yesterday, just kind of hung out at the house. Today, kind of doing the same. So, we're going to go ahead and get a volume leg day in today. So, it's just going to be leg curls, calf raises, leg extensions to focus on the legs. Then we'll go ahead and we'll hit some biceps or not biceps. Biceps are tomorrow. Some triceps today. And then, because tomorrow is our volume back day. But let's go ahead and get into these things. So let's go over a couple little tips for good leg curl. I definitely like to try to get nice and stretched out completely. The better version of this is obviously a seated version, because then your hamstrings end up with a bigger stretch, because then you are seated. So since your hammies pass through your hip joint, when they're seated, they get lengthened even further. Then when you're just laying down, that's why when you do like RDLs and you're going like this and you're getting that super deep stretch, like you can feel your hammies just pull tighter and tighter. So if you can do a leg extension in that position, it's going to get as lengthened as possible, because not only are you getting this stretch, but then you're getting the complete leg stretch with it, and then squeezing from that fully stretched position. And they're awesome. But not everyone has the ability to do seated leg curls, because they probably just don't have the machine available to them unless you're going to a normal like commercial gym or whatever. But laying hamstring curls, hey, next best thing. Next to that, you're going to be looking at like RDLs for targeting those hamstrings specifically. But this gets really great isolation in the hamstrings, because you're not having to brace yourself. You don't have to control anything. It's just pivoting at that knee joint strictly for those hammies. So what I like to do is make sure I square myself up on this thing nice and tight, so that way my legs are straight or perpendicular to the leg pad, and then just taking nice and slow. And I'll pick my hips up slightly, just because it's a little more comfortable on my knees. But I like to take them nice and slow. Feel the stretch. Get all the way back down to where those legs are nice and straight. Don't cheat your reps. Don't go from here to here. Go all the way down. And the goal is to not try to fling the weight into your butt, but to pull the weight upwards until you hit that range of motion. If you can get all the way to your butt, sure, that's cool. But when you're controlling the weight, you're normally not going to have the momentum to get all the way there, because even like this, like your foot is never getting to your ass. It ain't happening. So it should never be getting that far in the range of motion. So, I mean, unless you don't have any sort of hamstring at all, and so they're just so small that your leg can bend that far, I guess it's a possibility. But then I'd be way more worried about hurting my knee at that extreme range of motion than the effectiveness of the workout. So don't fling your feet up trying to get just to move the weight. Control that thing. Really feel it. Get the blood like pushing into those hammies. But With that, I'm going to hit 2-3 more sets here, but I'll bring it back for calf raises, which I'm going to do in between the 2 leg movements. All right, so it's 3 more sets there. So that was a total of 5. Just go until basically not quite failure, but close to failure, like 2 or 3 reps still in the tank or so. Not really trying to completely beat them down today. It's just a volume day, so I'm just looking to try to get some stimulation and push a bunch of blood into them. But now we're going to go ahead and move into standing calf raises. And with these, again, you kind of want to take the same approach, nice and slow. In this first set, we're going to do just flat-footed on the plate. Our next set, we're going to stand off the tip of the plate and really work the full range of motion. Because the difference between there and say back here, you're going to come into this with, oh, hold on. I forgot I adjusted this thing down for to feel better on my ankles when I was doing hack squats. But, so, if we come here now, so if the plate's here, this is where our feet would stop. But now being here on the edge, we can pivot past and really get that real deep stretch. Which allows a little more tension and a bigger range of motion, which will lead to some better calf development. But not only that, some better ankle stability. Ugh. Woohoo! Holy cow, those things burn. But by getting that big stretch, you're going to start working on your mobility, which, if you're like me, my ankle mobility is terrible. So if you can work your calf raises like this, or like the seated machine where it has like the little arm and your feet sit up here and you can get way down below it, it's going to help when you get into like your squats and your leg presses and things like that. Because as you're coming down, I'm guilty of it to where I'll kind of roll up on my toes some, because basically I can't bend my leg forward enough without my heel coming up to get the full depth of the squat. Now, you can also work around that with putting that plate underneath your heel when you're squatting. A big noticeable person who does that, and he's talked about it as well, is Sam Sulek. Dude's a monster though. So that's a whole different story when it comes to that. But he puts a heel under his plate, and that guy like squats with like his feet like almost touching. It's wild. But that's where you're going to get the most quad activation for a squat like that. Now, we're not trying to squat for that type of development per se. I'm trying to squat for general health, but also a little more on the like strength building side of things. So I do want, I mean, granted, he squats, he's insanely strong. But for the average person, we're not going to be doing that. So by getting that thing down there, you're going to notice a big difference in one, the way your calves start to develop over time, which me, unfortunately, I have terrible calf genetics. It takes a long time for them to grow. I really haven't been hitting them heavy enough to really force them to grow. So, but I've been working on the ankle mobility and strength part of things versus my calf getting massive. So, if you guys are having some issues with squatting, that'll help you quite a bit, because I've noticed watching people squat, one of the biggest problems they have is either foot placement or the ankle mobility itself is stopping them from getting deeper. So because when your shins stop, you kind of just shove yourself backwards and then fold yourself over instead of keeping your back upright and squatting, which then you get lower back pain and a whole bunch of other issues that go along with it. But I'm going to go ahead and knock out 2 more sets here, and I'll meet you back on the leg extension machine now, and we'll get those knocked out. All right, so leg extensions now. Ooh, my hammies are a little tender already. They're not like tender sore, but they're super pumped up, and I can feel like the pad just pressing into it. So now we're into leg extensions. Everyone's kind of done these, right? You sit on this thing, you might have a little knee pad there, and normally most people like adjust a little bench to hold themselves up like this, and you're going to hit these things, right? But when we start talking about the stretch again, the more you sit up, the less your quads are really kind of stretched. So the more you lean back, the longer they're going to stretch to the hip joint for your upper connections, which is going to lengthen your quads. So now if you're leaning back in the machine and you're hitting your quads, you're going to get a lot more engagement. I get a lot more through my outer sweep the further back I lean like this. Woo. But again, with these, nice, slow. You're not trying to like kick the weight up off your legs by moving so fast that it's just momentum taking care of it. You want that load to stay in the muscle. So by getting that big long stretch, you're going to put the most load you can on the muscle because it's at its furthest stretch where it's basically the weakest. So that's the whole point, right? Is getting the most load applied to a muscle when you're trying to isolate it without obviously tearing it apart and injuring yourself. So the further the stretch gets, the less like strength output that muscle really has to give, versus when it's partially contracted, you're in its like largest strength range. So like the movement's going to be the hardest here and almost easier through the middle, which is nice because you're able to work nice and even all the way through it and control the weight. Because if you're able to move this thing from here to like here, you're always going to be able to finish this part until the pump is just so wicked that you can't contract the muscle that far anymore because it's just full of blood. Ooh. But doing these 3 movements in this type of training pattern is going to help give you the most growth with the isolation of the muscle. So you're not using a bunch of extra things just to move the weight. So you're getting complete load into your hamstrings, your quads, and your calves. There's no way to really cheat them. You're either able to move your legs completely or you can't. Like, unless you're, I guess, like maybe if I try to rock my body in some sort of weird way, right? But then you obviously know you're doing it wrong and it's too heavy. So these little tips, while doing them, is going to help facilitate a lot of growth that a lot of people, I think, kind of miss out. Because they just get on there and just move some weight and then go on their way. But by slowing it down, really contracting the muscle and really feeling it and getting a big stretch is a massive difference than just, getting on, repping a bunch of weight like this. I mean, if you're just sitting on here like you're not doing anything, take this thing and just really move through the range with it. Ugh. All right. I'm going to get 2 more sets of these knocked out. And then we'll go ahead and we'll move into the rest of our accessory movements for today. All right, so I was wrong. Looking at my workout schedule there, we do have curls today. So last week we worked up to the 50s. I think we got 7. So we're going to go ahead and try to do the same thing there. Just work our way up and see if we can get some more reps at 50 pounds. Than we did last time. So my goal is to get to where probably sets at like 50, 55 pounds. It's pretty close to where I was training weight-wise previously when my arms were much bigger than they are now. Actually had some good bicep development. Did take a while for that development to come in, but I worked for a long time at like a heavier weight and just was trying to add reps and sets. And then I got to where like the dumbbells were fairly easy, so then I went to like that weight being isolated on the preacher. And I just worked at like 50 pounds for sets. But before you try to isolate a bunch of weight, 50 freaking pounds on a preacher curl, you want to make sure that you can move that thing in like a normal standing curl where you're not locked in. Because when you get onto the preacher, that force tremendously jumps much harder. And it puts a lot of load on your tendons. And that's where you watch people's biceps go pink and roll up into their shoulders. And it's disgusting. So, we definitely want to avoid, tearing a freaking bicep. Because that is no go. And that's why we kind of take our time here with working up in the weight. Go 15s, 25s, 35s. Since we're going to go to 50s, we'll probably just go straight to those now without having to do 45s. So we'll go ahead and get us set up for those. I'll let the biceps kind of relax and prep for a moment. I'll bring you guys back. We'll see how many times we can hit 50s. So the other thing I've liked doing now recently too is going ahead and putting the belt on when I go to do curls, because it helps me stay, just keeps me from rocking as much. But because I have this tendency of liking to curl slightly bent forward with my arm kind of back, so I curl almost like a drag curl, it helps keep some of that load just from sitting in my lower spine and making sure I'm staying braced. Because, I mean, 50-pound dumbbells, I'm sitting here holding 100 pounds out front of myself. 100 pounds isn't light. So, sure, do people curl heavier than that and whatnot? Yeah. But I'm not trying to do a back exercise. Ooh. Let's freaking go. First full set at 50 pounds. Fuck yeah. Let's fucking go. I think I'm going to do another set of curls. Not the 50s. I think I'm going to go ahead and drop down to the 35s. Just get a little more volume. Push a little more blood into them. But they already feel pretty pumped up. Alright, so I hit one more set. Did 12 reps at 35 pounds. And then I've been over here. I've done 3 sets already with 50 pounds on the rope for tricep extensions. We're going to go ahead and hit one last set here. And then that'll do for today. Just a little bit of legs and arms. Mostly just volume. Nothing too, crazy heavy. I guess 50-pound dumbbell curls is a bit heavy. But we're just really looking for the pump today. Woo! Oh yeah. We're getting there. We're making progress. I think I might actually measure my arms later. I have not measured them in quite a while. Last time I did, oh man, it's probably like November of last year, maybe. Before I ended up going to Georgia and all that stuff. But I can't quite remember. But I know they're like 15 and a quarter. So, if our arms are bigger than 15 and a quarter now, then I know I've been doing things at least somewhat right because they've grown. And my arms take a while to grow. So, at the fastest they've ever grown, I got like an inch over an entire year. And I haven't been training arms anywhere near that hard. So if I've gone up quarter, maybe a half inch in size in the last year, that's perfect. I'm not even going to complain about that. So, because growth is growth. I can definitely tell you my biceps have gotten a lot stronger in the last year, because at the beginning of the year, I was still kind of struggling to do like a set of 25 without like my wrist hurting and my elbow hurting. And we just did 50s today. So I've put 25 pounds onto my curl in the last year. So I will take that. But with that, guys, make sure you're out there working towards your goals, getting your stuff done, and most of all, just don't be a lazy fuck.